let's talk about something that's really important to me. Creedence Clearwater. All right, so I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the band. I am a major fan of John Fogerty, his classic Rickenbacker, however you want to say it. I love Stu Cook. I think he's an incredible bassist, and even as a vocalist for the short time that he got to do vocals in Mardi Gras, I love the band. I always have. A lot of people, though, have gotten a little upset with John Fogerty as of the last few months. I think it started last month, I believe. As we all know, my father's a photographer, so copyright is a very important thing in the art world, because if you create something, you should have the rights to that. There's no secret to that. There is no argument to be made whether or not you should have the rights to that. Now, John Fogerty was involved in one of the most famous copyright battles of all time against Saul Zaentz. Saul Zaentz, I believe is how you say his name, or more known as Fantasy Records or Concord now, over the rights to a lot of the famous CCR songs in which John Fogerty wrote when he was with the band. I think Up Around the Bend, Run Through the Jungle, Have You Ever Seen the Rain, that kind of thing. He was in this battle for quite a long time. It spanned consistently all throughout the 80s and 90s, and through all of which John Fogerty has had a little bit of a troubled past with this lawsuit, as he was a consistent and not violent, but very, very adamant drunk during the time period in which his lawsuit with Concord Records was going on. So I feel as though that discredited a lot of his claims when it came down to him proclaiming ownership of some of the most famous and profitable songs and singles ever recorded. So, leading back to now, as of recently, John Fogerty has won his lawsuit with Concord Records. Now that's incredible. That is a massive, massive win for the Fogerty family, as John Fogerty has been doing his solo project for about 10 years now, and he goes on these small tours and he does his solo music, and he has his sons accompany him and play music with him. Now, as of last January of 2023, Fogerty got the rights back to his music. Incredible. That is a big win for the music industry as a whole. It is a big win for musicians over record labels, which have notoriously been horrible for the artists ever since the creation of them in the 60s and 50s. Now, with that being said, some heat has come under Fogerty's little rump here about how he has been handling copyrights of photographers within his shows. Now, if anybody's not aware with how the concert photography scene works, photographers own 100% of their rights to their shots, as long as there is not a copyright waiver signed, which means if a photographer signs away the rights to their photos, they are allowed to shoot the band, which normally includes a free ticket, which basically means you were doing at least an hour of work for a ticket, in which these companies can then take your work, in which they will proceed to make whatever amount of profit on. And if anybody has ever looked into how much actual fully edited pictures cost, it's not cheap. It is not cheap. It's in the hundreds of dollars. And for them to simply say, hey, we will give you a $30, $40 ticket, not pay for your parking, nothing, and then we are going to take the rights of hours of your work away simply because we want to be able to use these pictures without any strings tied or any royalties being sent to you, is not great. And that is an unfortunate reality of the concert photography world, and that's just something that a lot of people have been dealing with in more recent years. Now, Fogerty, who has notoriously fought for his rights to his music against a record label that treated him and his creative ideas unfairly, has recently signed into an agreement that any photographer who shoots his show must sign a copyright waiver. Now, my father is a concert photographer, so this is a pretty big deal to him, as I am a massive CCR fan. I love John Fogerty. Never meet your hero kind of situation, but I do. And for me to hear about a man who spent years and years and years of his life fighting for rights to his music come around and say, hey, you are going to give me the rights to your work to shoot me, seems minorly hypocritical. And it seems as though it is a issue that is not really being discussed. He's not exactly mainstream or huge anymore, because most people know the name CCR. Not as many people know the name John Fogerty, even though he was the flagship and he was the main man. Now, I will say this. Is there an argument to be made that people, in some sense, have an innate ownership to their own image? The law says no, but some artists argue yes. Specifically artists of an older generation, but that's normally not always the case. And I think there needs to be more light shined on concert photographers in general. As I've said, it's not crazy. Basically, you're paid in a ticket. And if you pay somebody for, say, a wedding, which is probably much cheaper than a massive arena concert, which some of these concert photographers are shooting, to shoot, they're being paid nothing but a ticket. Normally what happens is you reach out to either the band itself or the not record label. You either reach out to the band, sometimes a record label. Napalm is pretty good, which is a metal label. They're pretty nice. But particularly, you're reaching out to specific people in the magazines or the music industry in general to see if you can get access to these tickets. A lot of times it's even the band's PR. Now, that being said, you're working for free experience. As a musician, that's not really anything new. How many times have you heard somebody say that they're going to pay you with an experience, or they don't have anything to give you, but they would love to have you? Like, they offer you a gig and there's no money behind it. That's basically what a lot of these smaller time, very talented concert photographers are having to deal with. They're going in, they are taking hours of work, because you don't just have to shoot the main band, you shoot the entire lineup. You're shooting sometimes even 4 or 5 bands, and in some instances, such as the more recent Perfect Circle, you have to shoot one song, but it's all 3 bands. It's incredibly difficult in terms of a artistic standpoint anyway. More people need to take into account that that's a lot of work. So, leading back to my main point from this little stray off I've had here, John Fogerty is trying to take these pictures on, maybe not just John Fogerty. I feel like putting the blame on one individual is a little rough, a little misunderstanding of the circumstances that the individual is being put in. There's obviously more than one person associated with the John Fogerty brand, so it's not just him, obviously, but there is issues happening that stem from him. But John Fogerty & Co. will say is taking the rights of these images away from hard-working photographers and giving them no rights. I mean, you may get a credit if they post an image, but they own your picture. They own everything to do with that picture. They can put it on a t-shirt and sell it for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. If they like your picture so much after you sign that copyright waiver, they can put it on a record label. Think about that. Going onto Spotify and say you're the photographer and you took this picture and you put it on there, and then you are not accredited at all on a website because they own the picture. You may be, hey, shout out to this guy, but not in any major sense. It's just going to be minor, hey, he took the picture, and then talk about the band itself. It just feels a little disingenuous, but I wouldn't want my music stolen from me at all. I wouldn't want a record label owning any percentage of what I make. I wouldn't want any percentage of that whatsoever taken. And for other members of this artist community, I feel as musicians, we should reach out to our photographer friends and support them as well. Because how many pictures of incredible musicians and music groups have we seen that don't know who took that picture? We just associate that with the band, and that seemed a little criminal to me. Now, I'll stop rambling. I just wanted to get my point out there. I'm pretty sure we're hitting right at that 10-minute mark. So this is going to be the first video on this channel. This is the kind of content I want to make here. I want to talk about major developments, not in just the guitar world, but in the music scene in general that I care about. And John Fogerty and CCR is a big one, and the issue with him trying to take away the rights to photographers' hard work just screamed, hey, you need to talk about this. So anyway, appreciate it. Thank you for coming here. I'm sure I'll upload a little snippet video and a link to this in the actual Instagram. So take it easy.